A lot of people are talking about prices with energy prices, gas prices going up, as well as jet fuel prices. Now, I've heard everything from up 20 to 40%, and that the airlines are starting to make adjustments in terms of how they're doing things. They are canceling flights, they are raising baggage fees, they are just killing our wallets out there. So we wanted to talk travel a little bit because it is springtime, and maybe you're thinking, hey, I'm looking forward to the summer. I want to go somewhere. I want to do something, but I'm a little afraid because of just how much things are costing these days. So we brought in an expert who can talk to us a little bit about travel. Elizabeth Psimas, she is here. She is with Travel Designers, Inc., out of Portsmouth. You might recognize her because she was on Portsmouth City Council for many, many years. How many years did you serve on council? 16 years. And now she is a travel agent extraordinaire. So we appreciate the fact that you came in on short notice to talk about some of the deals out there. Because I know I'm just here in the newsroom, we're talking a lot about, I know one of my coworkers canceled a trip that she had to Spain because the flight tripled in cost. So she said no. We did have a story the other day that said cruises, that there's some good deals on cruises, 25, to Mexico, some of the, the ones that are a little bit closer, like to the Bahamas. What are you seeing, first of all, in terms, as you are trying to plan travel, what are you seeing out there in general?
Well, it's interesting you talk about, jet fuel and flight cancellations. Most of my business now, and I've been doing this since 1985, so I've seen a lot of trends up and down, but we're seeing, just recently, Lufthansa announced they're canceling 20,000 flights over the summer, but short-haul flights within Europe from their Frankfurt hubs to short locations. We're also seeing some of the really long-haul flights, like from Australia to New York or Singapore to London. Some of those flights, instead of daily, they're being cut back to 2 or 3 days a week. Because, of course, they take a lot of fuel to take those 18, 20-hour flights. Me personally, my business, I haven't had but one cancellation, and that was a trip that involved Israel. So that was obviously, they canceled just before the tour operator canceled. But just this morning, I just made a final payment for some folks doing a Nile cruise so time in Egypt and continuing on into Jordan. And
can I go with them?
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to go myself. That's a bucket list for me. I was just in Europe 10 days ago. I did a river cruise from Brussels to Amsterdam. It was typical spring busy in Europe. I got caught up in all this new EES system of facial recognition and thumbprints and all that stuff. So I had a much longer departure out of Amsterdam than I would normally have. My check-in, when I arrived in Brussels, it was fine, but leaving Amsterdam took a little longer. But, cruises are a really good value, always. They always have been. But I think people are seeing that more now because even the least expensive cruise or the mass market popular cruise, like the Carnival cruises right here out of Norfolk, at bare bones, they include, all of your food, all the entertainment, coffee and tea, lots of fun things to do for the whole family. So, and the more luxurious the cruise becomes, the more it is included, like tours and excursions and cocktails and gratuities and things like that.
Yeah, those gratuities will get you. I did a cruise to Bermuda in September. It was very nice, though. I'm ready to do something else.
Oh, I love cruising. That's what I personally love and what I sell the most of, whether it's ocean or rivers.
So give me the secret. What's like the cruise line that is just always, great? You never have any problems that maybe you recommend.
Well, my biggest seller is Viking.
Viking.
Whether it's ocean cruising or river cruising. The world knows Viking because they have a marketing plan like nobody's business. Everybody gets a brochure in the mail and an email every day from Viking. But what that does is puts that top of mind. So sometimes someone will call me and say, I'm looking at this Viking river cruise from, Amsterdam, but that Viking cruise doesn't really suit their schedule, or it isn't available. And in fact, there are 12 or 15 other river cruise lines. Some are not as good, some are better. But that's where a professional travel advisor comes into play, to know the difference between what's right for Janet might not be right for Susie and John.
Right. Is Viking a little bit more expensive?
No,
Okay.
I would say no. And one reason it's not is because there's economy to scale. They have more ships than anyone, river ships. They're growing by leaps and bounds. They have a very unique position in the market in that they were a privately held company for more than 25 years, just went on the stock market about 2 years ago now, are doing very well. They're building ships like, we all hear about Royal Caribbean building these big, new, fancy ships, which are violently expensive, of course. In the meantime, Viking is planning on building 10 ocean ships, which will more than double their fleet in the next 3 years.
They're smaller ships.
They're smaller. We're talking about less than 1,000 passengers.
Okay.
And with Viking has two very distinct marketing plans. One is nobody under 18, and the other is no casinos. They call it the thinking man's cruise, and in fact, that's what it is. Lots of lectures, not necessarily on where you are. I did a transatlantic cruise with Viking in December from Barcelona to Florida, to Fort Lauderdale. 2 weeks on the ocean, only 2 stops, which means I had a lot of vacation time. It was wonderful. But we were busy every day because there were people lecturing on like the space program and how to take better pictures with your smartphone and interesting things.
Those things that you've been saying for years that you want to know more about, but you put it off.
Oh, I tried to learn how to play bridge. They were offering bridge lessons, and I went 3 times and said, Elizabeth, this is not for you. But no, and more and more, and as I have aged, my clientele has aged as well. And so some of them are well-traveled in major cities around the globe. But now they're going back to Spain or Italy or Greece, but they're going, outside of Rome, away from Barcelona, to smaller places.
Okay. To explore
more in country.
Yeah, to get away from like some of the touristy areas and just see how do the average people
really
live.
Yeah, and enjoy the food and the wine and whatever's important in that area, which is really great.
Okay.
And, the key to the economy of all this is planning ahead. If we're talking, going to Europe, we need to be talking about 2027 or at least October, today.
Okay. Right.
If you're calling me today and you want to go to Europe before, Labor Day, I can do it, but it's going to cost you money.
Okay.
And that has nothing to do with the current fuel situation. That's anytime.
That's anytime.
That's just the nature of the business.
What for this summer? I mean, what would you recommend? Someone calls and they say, I'm trying to save money. I don't want to spend a lot on gas. I don't want to, and a small family.
Well,
what would you recommend?
I just did this a couple of days ago. I had a gal call. A family of 4, 2 adults and 2 young teenagers, 13, 14 years old. She called about going to Key West, but she wanted to fly, and we turned that into Punta Cana, Dominican Republic.
Oh.
In an all-inclusive for way less money than flying to Key West and staying in a, $600, $700, $800 a night hotel. And everything was included. All the meals, all the entertainment, the gratuities, the taxes, the tips.
It was a cruise?
No, it was a land vacation. It was just 4 nights.
Oh, okay.
But, there's some places, from Norfolk, for example, I always figure, my go-tos for better airfare are Cancun, Montego Bay, Jamaica, and Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Usually there's lots of service, so it's a competitive market. It's easy to fly. Every airline out of Norfolk pretty much goes there now. We've just had Breeze open up service to San Juan on certain days of the week. That's not good if you're going on a cruise and you've got to get there. But
okay,
if there are lots of choices, and sometimes what you think is going to be inexpensive isn't.
Right.
Like Key West as a really good example.
Yeah, you think that's an easy thing,
Yeah.
but it turns out, wow. So you have resorts in these places that if like you're saying, it will include everything.
It's literally everything.
And so you save that way.
Yeah. And especially, if you've got teenage boys in the house, do you really want to be paying $40 for a club sandwich at a pool? No. You want them to be able to go and do, or if they want to have 32 Coca-Colas today, so be it. You're not paying $10 a Coke at a resort. These all-inclusive resorts are wonderful budget-wise because you know what you're spending. You spend it up front and you're done.
And then I guess if you take some tours, or they may sponsor some of the tours.
Well, in some places there are one or two that may be included. But in a place like Punta Cana, honestly, their Chamber of Commerce won't like me for saying this, but there's nothing to really go and do there. There's no history or culture there.
Okay.
So you're going to enjoy the beach and the pool, and they have gambling, and many of the resorts have casinos on site. Of course, that is not included.
Okay. All right.
But lots of fun. To truly relax, that's lots of fun.
Truly relax. Oh, gosh. Leah, are you listening to this?
Yeah. Can I sign you up, Janet?
Yeah, you know what? You might have to sign me. We may have to talk after this is over because I'm telling you.
We can be on the plane tomorrow morning. Yeah.
I will take it. So other things that people should keep in mind before they start this traveling endeavor, because you talk about planning, and planning is really important. You can end up spending a lot of money unexpectedly because of the lack of planning.
I just read a story on the internet this morning about some folks who flew to somewhere in the United States to get on a cruise that was a transatlantic cruise. It was a repositioning cruise. And they didn't have passports. Well, I mean, I think anymore everybody ought to have a passport, period, the end. But, in fact, I have gotten to the point now, if I'm ticketing you, an airline ticket to somewhere that requires a passport, I don't ask you for your passport number and expiration. I require you to send me a picture. I want to see for myself that your passport is valid 6 months beyond your travel date. If it's 5 months and 21 days, that doesn't cut it. Not only are they not going to let you in the country, Delta, American, United, they're not going to let you on the plane because they get fined if they take you to, Paris, but you're not eligible to come in the country.
Yeah, get that
And
passport.
there are lots of visa requirements now in many countries people don't expect. Like Punta Cana, Dominican Republic has an electronic visa requirement. It doesn't cost any money, but you have to do it. United Kingdom has a electronic visa program that they've had in effect since January of 25. Again, it's an online thing. It's like $25. It's good for 2 years. The rest of the European Union is slowly getting to that. That's what this EES system is now with facial recognition and fingerprints, but eventually it will be a full visa program.
Okay. What are you telling people in terms of if they're flying, how much time do they need to
Pack
give?
your patience.
Yeah.
Definitely be at the airport more than 2 hours in advance. Pardon me. Norfolk is wonderful.
Yeah.
And nobody's had any trouble at Norfolk.
Right.
I had folks just a couple of Sundays ago that were flying out of Dulles to go to Europe, and we were scared to death what was going to happen with their check-in. They got there at 4 p.m. for their 9 p.m. departure. They checked in 20 minutes.
Oh.
So you never know.
Yeah, okay, so they got lucky.
And when I came back through Dulles myself last Monday, when I walked into Customs and Immigration, I was the first passenger in the room. There was no other passenger in the room.
Wow.
It was phenomenal. I walked up to the global entry kiosk, slapped down my passport, it does its thing, and then this voice from 30 feet away says, "Come on, Elizabeth, you're good to go."
Okay. Well, good.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, so sometimes, those unexpected
but you've
surprises.
got to pack your patience because
you have to.
things happen. We've had a lot of bad weather the last few months that's fouled up a lot of things too.
Right. Yeah, that's always an issue. I just hope that, prices, because we're hearing just horrible things about the jet fuel prices. That's a little scary. I did, just by chance, because I have to go to Atlanta in August. So I hadn't gotten my ticket yet, and I'm thinking I better get it because they're talking about prices going up. I logged on $119 round trip.
You never know.
I can't believe that.
You never know.
One night from Norfolk, 119 round trip. So yeah, I'm not complaining.
No.
But chances are,
You couldn't drive it for that.
No. Are you seeing some like domestic flights that are just like, wow, I can't believe it's that much?
I did one not long ago to LaGuardia,
Which
that I
should
thought was going to be $500 round trip. It was a business guy, called today, going tomorrow, come back the next day kind of thing.
Yeah, that shouldn't
I
be.
thought it was going to be $500 or $600, so did he, and it was like less than $300.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
you don't know.
Are you seeing some on the other end though that are
Well,
like
yeah,
way expensive?
The biggest change I'm seeing is business class flights to Europe that used to be about $4,000 are now $6,000.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And I know I told you that my coworker canceled her trip to Spain because the price, I think, tripled. And so you do have some of that going on.
Well, and it's always been the closer you get to departure, the higher
Yeah.
it becomes. But now I think that's exponentially growing.
So what, you also hear people say, oh, fly out on a Tuesday, don't fly. What are those?
I don't believe any of that.
None of that?
I
No?
don't. No, I don't.
Okay.
I've tested it myself, and
Uh-huh.
I don't believe it.
Okay.
If it was really a rule, I'd know about it.
All right. She would know
I-
about it.
I-
She
I
would
just-
know.
I would know.
She would
I
know.
would
Okay.
know. Yeah.
All right. So ignore that.
Yeah.
Let's see other trip ideas, and then maybe people need to rediscover home a little bit. Stay or places that aren't. Do you have people coming to you and saying, I don't want to spend a lot on gas? What is near Hampton Roads like within 3 hours or?
Honestly, I call that cocktail party talk.
Okay.
I don't sell anything like that.
Okay.
I can have a conversation about my own experiences, but
Uh-huh.
there's no money in it, so I don't sell anything like that.
Okay, she doesn't sell anything well, I understand that. But cruises are pretty big.
Yeah, somebody called me not long ago and asked me something about a hotel in Virginia Beach or Williamsburg or something. And I said, if you want to talk about Paris, Madrid, or Barcelona, I know a lot more about their hotels than I do the ones in my own backyard because I don't stay in them.
So where is the jewel? When you talk about overseas, Barcelona, Paris, where's someone you've been or you've heard back from some of your customers and they're saying this was an absolute jewel?
Well, I think everybody loves Barcelona. That's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Barcelona just has so much to offer. And the way it's designed, there's a main drag street from the waterfront straight down the center of the city, kind of like High Street to Portsmouth. It's like Old Town on major steroids. La
Okay.
Rambla is one lane of traffic in each direction and a very large area in between that has cafes and flower shops and pantomime people, and it's just really fun, and all the tapas places and so much history. Barcelona's really popular. Amsterdam's really popular. Of course, Amsterdam has the beautiful canals, and then top of mind because I was just there, the Rijksmuseum, the Van Gogh Museum. The Hague is nearby with so much history there.
In terms of pricing to get to those places, what's the most?
Well, economy airfares, I always say budget $1,500 from here.
Okay.
Might be a little less, might be a little more. But accommodations can vary greatly. And in the major cities like that, there is always the Ritz-Carlton, but there is also, the 3-star property in the next block that's in the right location,
Yeah, and how do you?
but doesn't have all the amenities. And to me, any big European city, it's all about location.
Okay.
You don't want to use the analogy of downtown Norfolk, you don't want to come to visit MacArthur Center and the downtown Norfolk waterfront and stay on Newtown Road.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense. Well, the same thing is true in Europe. These big cities in Europe, Athens or Barcelona, Paris, whatever, they're as big as,
How
the
do you
Norfolk
do that?
waterfront.
How do you do that research to make sure you get,
it's
because that can spoil the
it's
trip.
A, being there, and B, doing a lot of education and research and knowing who to trust and who to talk to.
Yeah.
The travel industry has had a big shift. When the internet came out, everybody was like, oh, we're not going to need travel agents anymore. Well, the biggest increase in users of travel advisors are now younger people in their 30s and 40s who grew up with the internet and know that everything isn't true on the internet. And
Right.
you can make a mistake and cost yourself a lot of money.
And when you look at those photos, those snapshots
Oh, yeah.
that they have that look absolutely gorgeous, and then you get there and you realize it's a dump.
I've seen those photos of Caribbean resorts that look like they're, the beautiful oceanfront, whatever. And I know that what's next door is like a shipyard.
Yeah.
It's not the beautiful, beach, sandy beach that you expect. But you learn that over the years.
You learned that over there, so it really
you
does.
Obviously, I can't know everything, and I haven't been everywhere. But the important thing in using an experienced travel advisor is they know who to ask.
Okay.
We have partners that we trust.
Right.
And anymore after all these years, I don't sell everything and everybody. If there isn't somebody that I can put my hands on and call and say, hey, Janet, my client's got a problem and so, help me, I don't sell them.
Okay.
And that's true of hotels or cruise lines or any tour operator.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Now, the other thing is, how does a person research like deals? I mean, you're going someplace and you're thinking, if I'm here at home, I kind of know spots, or I kind of know where I can get a discount. How do you find out that information?
Well, the internet is good for that.
Okay.
Just buyer beware.
Yes.
Look at what you're looking at. And I have people will call me and say, hey, I saw this on this website or whatever, and
That's important.
And sometimes, and there are occasions when I'll say, look, I can't and won't meet that price. I don't know who those people are, but I can't sell it for that. And if you think you can really buy it for X dollars, go ahead. But then I don't have to stand behind it.
Do you know someone who's been scammed that way?
Only one, but and that's in a long period of time. But
That's another thing, as people are grappling for discounts, be very, very careful about what you see online, because scams are rampant.
What you pay for,
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with hotels, especially in places like in Florida, Hawaii, Las Vegas, where there are like resort fees. You'll see an ad on the internet that the room's $200 a night.
And that,
And then in the fine print it says plus, plus, plus. Well, I tell you it's $262 a night, including the resort fee and tax and what have you. And you think my price is too high, but you're going to pay that when you get there.
Right.
You have to do apples to apples.
Absolutely. And then in turn, and I'll let you go in just a minute here, hotel prices. That is something that has the sticker shock on hotel prices.
Yeah.
Seems like just a few years ago, you could find a hotel $105, $120. Now, almost any place they're charging you over $200.
Try to book a hotel in downtown Norfolk.
What is up with
Downtown
that?
Portsmouth.
It's
No, it's very true. I tell you the sticker shock of the year for me. The FIFA World Cup soccer games.
Yeah.
we'll be in Seattle in the June, July timeframe. Mm-hmm. Well, that is also Alaska cruise season. So the typical book a hotel a night or two before you get on the ship to take your Alaska cruise, I'm
Right.
doing it myself. 6 or 7 months ago, I booked a non-refundable hotel room for myself for just less than $1,000.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the cheap one.
Are they going
I mean,
to
or I
wash your
could spend
clothes and cook for you and perform?
$750 and go 30 miles out of town.
Yeah,
I mean, it is crazy.
it is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, do your research, plan
ahead.
and plan ahead, and that's the best way to save some money, and you can still take
And get
your
an
trip.
experienced travel partner.
Yes, get an experienced travel partner, somebody that you can ask.
Doesn't
some
have
key
to be me.
questions
There are
to.
plenty of us around.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
It's been fun. Thank you.
This has been really good, and we may have to talk some more about
You
about
got my
my
number.
trip.